All right, hi everybody. We are on to lesson three, where World War II officially begins. And I will say this: we have a date, and not to confuse you, but World War II is actually already going at this point. We're going to talk today about how Germany, of course, invades Poland. That's a classic date, but Japan is the one that kind of started this whole thing as well, and they invaded China prior to this. So I'm just going to leave that as a side note. And they're also the ones that are, you may have heard of the atomic bombs dropped on Japan, and that's how it's ended. So I'm just going to give you that as a little side history nugget. But here we go. Lesson three, World War II begins. Our first word is Blitzkrieg. Say Blitzkrieg. It means lightning war, a rapid military attack. So it's basically you send in your airplanes and your tanks, and it's a quick attack followed by your infantry or soldiers. Why did France and Britain declare war? What happened at Dunkirk? And there's a movie about that. It's kind of long. Not that good. Uh, this is not a very, it says radar, RADAR, and it's a system used to detect objects such as planes, and it uses sound waves. Okay, now it says, what was the Battle of Britain? And here it says the German Air Force destroyed many buildings in London. So that maybe has something to do with the Battle of Britain. Going on to the next page. Next word is security. Say security. And security means safety. We have our military for the security or the safety of our country, right? Next one is lottery. Say lottery. Drawing names to decide who is drafted into the military. Usually, when we think of the lottery, we think of you're winning a bunch of money. This is kind of the same and kind of the opposite. In this case, if your name is drawn, you have to join the military, whether you want to or not. Okay, questions. What happened when Hitler attacked the Soviet Union? How did America come closer to war? And then we got some review questions. So here we are. Let's read. German soldiers moved rapidly into Poland by trucks on September 1st, 1939. They were supported with tanks and bombing attacks by the German Air Force. This new method of warfare was called Blitzkrieg, or lightning war. This simple act of German aggression was the beginning of World War II. So, when did World War II officially, by the history books, begin? 9/1/39, or 9/1/1939, or September 1st, 1939. Okay? What was the event that set that off? Germany invades Poland. And maybe that in itself doesn't seem like that big of a deal, even though it was. But we'll see how, like World War One, one thing caused other things to happen. Okay, so this was not an isolated event. Of course, Germany was gobbling up land in Europe and being the aggressor, and finally, the other European powers or other countries in Europe say, enough is enough. Okay. Why did France and Britain declare war? Troops of the Soviet Union also attacked Poland. Great Britain and France, attempting to aid Poland, declared war on Germany. So, um, since Poland was attacked, so the Great Britain and France declared war on Germany. So officially, we have three countries in it already. While repeating his vow to remain neutral, President Roosevelt did not approve of the attack on Poland. He asked Congress to reverse its neutrality order so that the United States could sell weapons to France and Great Britain. After a long debate, the arms were made available. So, America's still not in the war yet, but we are selling stuff to our future allies, even though they weren't officially our allies yet, but those are France and Great Britain. Okay, so we're selling stuff to those guys so they can fight Germany. So in many ways, we've already taken a side, right? We're just not fighting for one side. Going on, a few weeks after the attack by the Soviet Union, Poland surrendered. Germany and the Soviet Union divided Poland between them. Through the winter of 1939 and 1940, there was a little activity. Some people began to speak of a phony war. The world watched and waited, however, for Hitler's next move. They remember the Nazi phrase, today Germany, tomorrow the world, right? Germany was bent. If you've seen pretty much lots of movies, whether even I just watched Captain America last night and it's about Hydra and it's based on Nazi Germany, okay? And the Germans were bent on taking over the world. They felt like they were the best people, that they were the best at everything. In the last chapter, we read about Jesse Owens and other sporting events like in boxing and Joe Louis. And anyway, long story short, Germans thought they were the best. That's why they were killing the Jews. And that's why they thought they were doing the right thing by conquering other countries, as warped and strange as that sounds. Suddenly, in April 1940, Germany attacked and defeated Denmark and Norway. The next month, Belgium, Luxembourg, and the Netherlands fell to the German army. Germany then attacked France. German soldiers broke through the French defensive line. Right, so none of these countries are like strong. France a little bit more strong, but they're gonna beat the French. And the point of that is they're conquering. Okay, they're taking over other countries. What happened at Dunkirk? More than 300,000 British, Belgian, and French soldiers were trapped between the attacking Germans and the sea. These Allied troops retreated to Dunkirk, a seaport located in the north of France on the English Channel. Great Britain made a daring attempt to rescue these Allied troops. Hundreds of ships set sail from Great Britain for Dunkirk. Most of the troops were safely rescued and were in Great Britain on June 4, 1940. 6 days later, Italy sided with Germany and declared war. France surrendered and requested an armistice. Hitler agreed. So, if you've seen the movie Dunkirk, or there's some others that have these events in it, but all these fishing boats from Great Britain come on over, and they're able to rescue all these soldiers that were getting beat by the Germans. Okay, they're pinned down. But they made it out, and that was a really important part to save all those battle-worthy young men. All right, what was the Battle of Britain? Great Britain was left alone to fight the Nazi war machine. If Great Britain was defeated, the United States would be without an ally in Europe. Prime Minister Winston Churchill spoke to the British people on June 4th, 1940. He told them, "We shall defend our island, whatever the cost may be. We shall fight on the beaches. We shall fight in the fields, and in the streets we shall never surrender." It's a really famous and moving speech. In my presentation, I have that whole thing, and you'll listen to it, and you can hear the way he talks. It's a lot better than I did. All right, but the Prime Minister of Great Britain, Winston Churchill, was a change from the previous Prime Minister of Neville Chamberlain. And Winston Churchill was not afraid of Hitler, was not going to make Hitler happy, was not going to give in to Hitler's demands. Okay? So this change in leadership means, fight to the last man. We're not going to give in. All right, the British waited for a German invasion of their country. The German Air Force began around-the-clock bombing raids on Great Britain's Air Force bases in August 1940. The Royal Air Force, or RAF, so RAF, or Royal Air Force, fought back. The RAF used a new radar system that located incoming planes. Many German bombers were destroyed. The Germans had to change their plans to invade Great Britain. So you can see that Germany was bombing, this is the capital of Great Britain, of London, right? Destroying London, big time. But the Royal Air Force was able to basically slow down all these bombers, and I shouldn't say all of them, but enough that the Germans eventually stop attacking by air. Okay, because if you think about where Great Britain is, it's an island. So you have to go there by sea, or you have to go by there. You can't just march troops in. Made it a little bit more challenging to conquer Great Britain. But that radar system, it sends out sound waves, and then a sound wave bounces back to the radar, and then it can tell if something is coming. All right? Going on. What happened when Hitler attacked the Soviet Union? Hitler attacked the Soviet Union in June 1941. He ignored their friendship treaty. This decision was a major mistake for Hitler. Great Britain, Canada, Australia, the Soviet Union, and other nations joined together to fight Germany. These countries became known as the Allies. They realized that Hitler was attempting to gain control over all of Europe, right? So Germany and the Soviet Union, or what we call Russia today, were buddies. And Hitler was doing that because he didn't want to be attacked by the Soviet Union. But he did honestly think that he could do it, that he could beat everybody. So he goes and attacks this huge country, right? If you look at Russia or the Soviet Union on a map, it's gargantuous, right? So they attacked the Soviet Union. It says that was a really big mistake. How did America come closer to war? Most Americans still did not want the United States to enter the war. However, Americans did not try to stay neutral, as in World War I. They became concerned about America's safety. President Roosevelt told the American people that Great Britain needed help. Great Britain needed more weapons but did not have enough money to pay for the supplies. America had to be the arsenal of democracy. Roosevelt proposed that the United States lend Great Britain military supplies. Congress passed the Lend-Lease Act in March 1941. This policy was designed to keep America out of war in Europe. Under the Lend-Lease Act, the United States government would provide weapons to any country considered important to American security. These nations could buy, lease, exchange, or borrow equipment, weapons, and supplies to the United States. During World War II, the United States provided $50 billion in Lend-Lease aid to the Allies. Okay, so the old analogy that Roosevelt used, and it was brilliant, is if your neighbor's house is on fire, you're going to let them use your garden hose. Okay? And otherwise, what's going to happen? Your house is going to be on fire too. So it's a great way of convincing Congress and our other officials and the American people that we need to do something to help our allies out. All right, going on. The United States began to prepare for the chance of war. Congress approved millions of dollars to strengthen the armed forces. The Selective Training and Service Act was passed in September 1940. This was the first peacetime law that drafted men into the armed forces. The last draft had been during World War I. Men between the ages of 21 and 35 were selected by a lottery to serve 1 year in the military. The lottery was a drawing of names. Later in the war, the age was lowered to 18. Men were then called to serve by age. The oldest went first. So, all of a sudden, if your name was John, what happened? You're between those ages, you had to serve in the military. Okay, that's all there was to it. The United States made a trade with Great Britain and loaned its 50 small warships called destroyers. In return, Great Britain leased naval and air bases to the United States in the Western Hemisphere. These bases allowed the United States to better defend itself and to keep watch over the Panama Canal. Okay, so as we're getting used to our approaching Japan to attacking the United States, this is kind of an important thing to understand. Yes, we gave or loaned Great Britain some destroyers, but we're taking over bases and lands that's out in the Pacific Ocean or in the Western Hemisphere. Okay, so kind of think about that, or it's also in like South America or Central America, places near the Panama Canal, but it's kind of like approaching that way. All right, some questions. What marked the beginning of World War II? And if I had to answer that, that would definitely be Germany attacking Poland on September 1st, 1939. Which countries did Germany capture? You can go back and look at those countries. How did the British defend themselves against German attacks? Big answer is the Royal Air Force and the radar. What was the Lend-Lease Act? Basically, they could sell or loan or let Great Britain or lease. It means like put payments on any kind of military supplies. Selective Service Act, that's where people went into a lottery, mostly men, and would just basically have to join the military between 21 and 35 years old. Okay? Okay, that is the reading for today.